Welcome everyone to this meetup for the industry innovators community. My name's Sam Williams and I'm from Accelerate, and I'm joined today by Joel Spencer, Mark Weinstein, and Dan Bruton. So Joel, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having us here today, Sam. My name is Joel Spencer. I'm CEO of the Institute for Drone Technology, and I'll be talking a little bit about what we do, but also giving you an example of one of our clients, so a case study within the industry, and then some of the considerations that we go through when working with clients to integrate drone technology into their organizations.
Great. And Mark, a little bit about yourself.
Hi everyone, my name's Mark Weinstein, Head of Sales and Delivery for Cognian Technologies. Today I'll be giving you an overview of Synchromesh and Cognian and our technology overview and how we're addressing smart building capabilities and encouraging a safe and secure return to the workspace.
Super. And Dan, not that you're a stranger.
No, it's good to be back. Thanks, guys. Dan Bruton, I'm from TechData, leading the ecosystem initiative and bringing the likes of Institute of Drones and Cognian together to showcase some of the innovation that's happening in the industry.
Super. So I just wanted to take a moment to talk about what the purpose of the industry innovator community is. And it's very much about connecting asset-intensive professionals to innovation, collaboration, and those ecosystems that facilitate both that innovation and collaboration. So with that in mind, Daniel has some examples of different solutions that have been put together with TechData, and then we'll get on to the time with Mark and Joel.
Thanks, Samuel. As Samuel said, I just wanted to take you through very briefly some examples of innovation that's been brought to specific industries. Inclusive. This is a healthcare example. However, we also have a asset-intensive industry example following this. But these have been a result of a similar sort of initiative that TechData has been involved in out of the UK. So the whole premise is exactly the same as this industry innovators meetup. It's about bringing new, exciting organizations to create some new ways of thinking and address some common problems that we have within our industries with the use of innovative technology. So the example to highlight here is an organization called VAXPORT. So VAXPORT came about as a result of the COVID pandemic. So we're going back over 2 years now. However, the value proposition of VAXPORT is exactly the same today as it was back then. It's all about digesting the vast amounts of information that is out there on COVID in a simple, consolidated view. The objective that these guys have and the target audience that they have is organizations and return to work. So as you can all appreciate, the amount of COVID data out there is endless. However, we're at a point in the process now of getting our employees back into the office, getting that in-person collaboration happening again. However, we can't be doing that without taking into consideration a safe strategy and the COVID implications of our employees that we need to take into consideration. So VAXPORT very simply has taken the testing data into a basic digestible format to actually help return to work strategies. Which is a very similar topic, which Mark will touch on later on in the day. We've got an organization called Visualize Info. So as many of you would be aware, Maximo is an asset management platform that has been very dominant within the industry for many years now. Visualize Info has looked to enhance what data Maximo is able to provide a customer by including 3D scan information on the assets that Maximo manage. So it's really about combining the visualization of assets with the data that exists within Maximo on those assets. There's a lot of interactive examples that you can dig deeper into after today's session around what Visualize Info provides. However, the key challenges which this solution looks to overcome is common to us all. It's all about integrating additional data sets into creating a fuller picture on our assets. It's about automating workflows to do more with less. And ultimately, it's looking to get to a point where we're actually able to achieve predictive maintenance on those assets in an effective way and in an efficient manner. So 2 examples between Visualize Info and VAXPORT of innovative solutions, innovative organizations that are targeting industry-specific challenges and how they're overcoming them with innovative technology. Now, with that said, we want to move on to first of our 2 speakers today, which is Joel Spencer from the Institute of Drone Technology. Drones are obviously extremely prevalent across a lot of industries, but particularly within asset-intensive industries. So, Joel, I'll hand across to yourself to give us some background on your company and where you're seeing some success.
Thanks, Dan, and thanks, Sam, and thanks for inviting us to this event. My name is Joel Spencer, and I'm CEO of the Institute for Drone Technology. Today, I'll be talking to you about what we do, but most importantly, giving you an example of a client that we've worked with over the last couple of years who's having great success in your industry. And then I'm going to finish with some considerations that we usually take to clients when we're helping them bring new technology into their industry. So a little bit about us. So the Institute, we've been around since 2016. We've got a little over 60 clients now across Australia, though some of them work in a whole lot of different jurisdictions across the world. We are a registered training organisation. We're a CASA accredited training provider. And essentially we provide, I guess, services in 3 areas. One is system support. So that's creating policy and procedures for clients to be able to use drones within their organisation, within their industry. Often there are specific regulations or requirements in different industries, as well as the aviation requirements you have by the fact of using drone technology. We assist with proof of concept to integration. So that whole process from, someone has an idea, does it work? How do we make sure it works? What other kinds of technologies are there? We are agnostic to the technology itself. We just try and find or build the best technology for the client's requirements. We're also an important thing when we talk about drone technology, as you'll see in this client example. Yes, it is flying drones, but also we work with drones on ground, on water, and underwater as well. So it's essentially about robotics. Where we fit in the technology stack is about helping people use those machines. So we're not really at the data end of it, but we're a crucial enabler of people being able to collect that data. Just here are a few of our clients as examples of a very wide range of areas that drone technology is moving into. Glencore has been a major client of ours from the start, probably the one that made it possible for this business to continue. But all across, from universities to councils, a lot of miners to the big retailers, and obviously people who work in asset-intensive industries. And the one we'll be talking about today, you can see on the bottom left one across, is VOLTIN. VOLTIN is a good example for us for a number of reasons. One of the first ones is that VOLTIN grew out of the industry in which it works. So it came out of another company as an idea of a way to improve the process of asset inspection. And that's crucial, we find, when people come from an industry and bring a technology back into that industry, because they really understand the business value proposition that they're bringing with their technology. And crucially, they have the networks available to be able to actually acquit what it is that they're trying to do. So again, there is an underlying data capture or data platform here. I am not an expert in the data platforms themselves. We are about supporting the technology to go and collect that data. For the client, the business value proposition was that it essentially would reduce the costs involved in the activity. And also that it's much easier to do from a regulatory point of view once we have set up the systems in play. So we're just going to show you a short video that the client has put together that demonstrates the technology. Now, caveat, it is put together by the client, so it is a bit of a sales, but what I'm really showing it for you to you for is so you can see the technology being used, and then I'll be able to explain how we supported them on the journey to put it actually into use.
The VOLTIN system is a new, innovative technology that identifies, classifies, and digitally represents building defects. The AutoBAT 2.0 is the heart and brain of the VOLTIN system and has CASA instrument ARN and international approval for operation within CBD environs and within a controlled airspace, meaning building access is guaranteed. Once the facade inspection image capture process is completed, the system then provides the metadata images in both geotagged white light and thermal imagery data to H3 Zoom for algorithmic analysis. By using VOLTIN's system solution, you'll save money, time, and lives. Join us in our attempt to stop further Champlain, Mascot, or Grenfell Tower disasters and share in our vision of 10,000 safer cities. For more information on our services, go to www.voltin.com.au.
All right, so that's sort of a demonstration of their product, and particularly at the start of the video where you saw the machinery more being used. This is, so you'll understand this sort of slide and this sort of process to do with the data and what you use it for a lot better than I do. But essentially, it's collecting data from the facades of buildings in order to do condition reporting, which I know you all would understand very, very well. So the system is called the AutoBAT system, and this is, I guess, where we come in, is how do you get permission and how do you operationally deploy this machine? First thing you'll notice is it doesn't look a lot like a drone. If you look carefully at the bottom of the machine, you will see a couple of propellers there. This is what is essentially moving the understanding of the machine into the drone world. Those propellers are really used to keep the drone or the machine back from the facade enough, about 2 meters, to be able to see the facade and collect the data that it needs. The big difference for this is that it's difficult to fly normal sort of drones in highly urban environments because there's a number of rules about not being able to fly over people, having to have 30 meters away from people, which essentially, if you understand, in a city, that means that you have to close roads, and that is extremely expensive. So that's something that has prevented the use of drone technology and thus prevented the ability to put machines up close enough but far enough as well from the facade to be able to use the data capture methods, whether it be RGB, which is red, green, blue, or thermal imagery, to actually capture what you're after. So that's the difference from our point of view, is how are we going to deploy this machine into a highly urban environment, and how are we going to get permission, or how is the client going to get permission to use this in a way that no other drone has been able to be used, and thus bring that capability to market. In order to be able to use a drone that weighs more than 2 kilos, you need an operator certificate from the Civil Aviation Safety Authority. So we were able to design for our client an operations manual, an operational procedures library that met all the requirements and of safety and procedural requirements, and sort of gave comfort to the regulator that this is going to be a safe operation. And it is a safe operation. The drone is tethered from the top of the building, as you saw in the video. It's not going to hurt anybody. By doing what it's designed to do, it does so safely, with more safety than other comparative technologies, and it gets the job done that it's trying to do. So we just had to, I guess, explain those policies, those procedures, those standard operating procedures into a manual form, an operational procedures library that could be understood by the Civil Aviation Safety Authority, and thus be able to approve the operation of this machine in urban environments. We also provide for them a chief remote pilot, which is a requirement that an organisation with an operator certificate has a chief remote pilot. So we were able to source and provide a highly experienced CRP as we call them, to be able to approve flights and ensure that the operations continue running in alignment with the ops manual and the operational procedures library. And of course, we offered training. So as I said before, our three areas are sort of policy and procedure, then there's the training, and then there's the management platform. So we've assisted this client across that entire journey over probably a period of 2 years, I'd say now. And it is, it's really growing and they're doing really well. So I just wanted to go to some of the considerations that we always undertake when we're helping a client, and we've helped clients in all kinds of different technologies and all kinds of different areas. And so not only have we had great successes, but we've also seen what doesn't work. It's not rocket science, but it's something that we really need to understand and sometimes make people just sit back. Don't be so enthusiastically focused on the widget or the drone, as we call it. But really, there's other things you've got to look at to ensure that your project is going to bring a business value proposition to the client and will succeed. So the first thing we sort of think about is the idea technically possible at all? Most ideas are technically possible, but you've got to see that within the framework of how much is it going to cost, what is the timeline, et cetera, with that. The key consideration is what is the business value proposition. There are many, many technologies out there that are great ideas and work really well in the university, but is someone going to buy it? Well, they're only going to buy it, and they're only going to buy your product or service if that creates a business value proposition for them. There's another conversation on how is that business value proposition communicated, but you've got to have that business value proposition. Once that's established, we need to see is it possible from a regulatory point of view. Now, a lot of people sometimes complain about regulation. We don't. We understand that it's an iterative process, that it's a relationship that we have with a regulator that is creating a pathway towards more advanced capability for drone technology. Yes, technically, we could put a drone up and fly beyond visual line of sight in a highly urban environment tomorrow. With regulations, though, you can't, and you won't be doing that in the next 6 months or 12 months. But it's a journey. And so if you go with the regulator and you help them along that journey, trying to ensure and give people comfort that your system is safe, we'll go on that journey together. Then there's what are the actual operational considerations for using this technology in a given industry. So they're very different. If you work in mining, you have the Mines Inspectorate. If you work in rail, you have the rail authorities. There's different requirements in different areas, and we have to understand them in order to know how we're going to deploy that system. For instance, in this case, there's obviously a whole lot of working at heights issues and parallel issues that go in place with that. From this, the final consideration that you get is really what is the true cost of development, procurement, deployment, and integration of that system. Not only what is the true cost, but also what is the potential benefit. So that's we need to sort of work in that methodology to understand, can it be done? What's the business value proposition? What are the regulatory pathways? How do we get it into your industry? And what is it actually going to cost? So that's my example of a client that we've worked with and an example of the work that the Institute does. If anyone has any questions, there's some contact details on this slide. And thanks again for having us.
Thank you for that, Joel. That was fantastic. Really interesting to see how far VOLTIN's come by working closely with the Institute of Drones. Now, I encourage anyone that has questions to include them in the chat box that we can come back to. However, one question from myself would be, obviously a lot of our audience would have a whole variety of applications or use cases that drones would be relevant to. However, it's a classic case of you don't know what you don't know. So how do you, when you engage a new customer on the beginning or early stages of the drone technology, how do you work with them to identify what's a good use case that they can actually apply drones to?
Yeah, so there's sort of two ways clients come to us. One is the way that you're describing. Someone has an idea, watches too many YouTube clips and decides they want to get into drone technology. The other way is that they discover someone is already using a drone in their organization. But in either way, in order to really get the best out of the project, out of the integration, we have a methodology whereby first we start with what we call a discovery workshop, which people may be familiar with. It works in other industries, where we bring key stakeholders together into the room. We do a knowledge transfer about regulations, requirements, the safety elements and all that kind of stuff. And then we work with the client to come up with what are 1, 2, 3 viable, achievable things that you can do with drone technology, something that will actually succeed. You can be in the room and people can think of 50 things that they can do, but let's pick a few that they can do, and then we write an integration management plan where we help them achieve those small and easy to achieve things, and at the same time build a framework, a policy and procedure framework that allows them to go on and develop the further ideas that they have once they've got, your base level bedded down. So.
Great. No, that makes a lot of sense.
I guess I have a question also, more from a commercial standpoint. What are some of the ownership models here, or operational models? Like, is there such a thing as drones as a service, for instance?
Yes, so there is. The Institute itself is not a drones as a service provider, though we do end up flying, doing flight operations for clients for proof of concepts, or in the early days, we might run, we've done, 40 or 50 flights, flight operation to prove it up. So yeah, there are different models. Drones as a service is definitely one model, particularly with drones that are more difficult to operate, more expensive, or for whatever reason, you can't get your internal people trained up. However, it is much more common now, and you can see the market moving, so that a client will not outsource the operation. Instead, they will train their own people to conduct the flight operations. And there's a lot of reasons they do that. One, overall, the drones are getting cheaper, the technology is getting better. But secondly, it's about data. They really want to be able to control that data that they're collecting themselves. And there's a fair bit of concern about outsourcing the collection of that data. Obviously, in the value chain, someone is outsourcing. So an example I gave you, VOLTIN, they're being paid by other people to do the asset and facade inspection, but they themselves are the people who own the drones. We've trained them. It's their manuals, and they're able to do it independently of us.
Thank you so much for your time, Joel. Obviously, from everyone in our audience that wants to know more, we've got contact details on the screen, and I encourage you to reach out to Joel for a further conversation. But thank you for your time. And
no worries. Thank you, guys.
Okay, on to our next speaker. So next we've got Mark Weinstein from Cognian Technologies. Very interesting topic, very relevant topic about both return to work safely as well as sustainability. But Mark, I might hand across to yourself to give everyone some background on Cognian and the technology that you're bringing to the industry.
Great. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate the opportunity to have this discussion today. So I'm Mark Weinstein, Head of Sales and Delivery from Cognian Technologies. So Cognian is a fast-growing Australian PropTech company whose mission is to convert every building to a smart building, whether this is a new build or a retrofit. We achieve this by enabling multiple third-party sensors and devices to facilitate data-driven decision-making. SynchroMesh is a wireless IoT data connectivity platform that is essentially the central nervous system of the building. So as I mentioned, our vision is to convert every building into a smart building, whether it's new build or retrofit. And we achieve this by connecting the physical world, such as sensors and actuators, to the digital world. We make IoT easier, more manageable, and secure. We achieve this by open standards and open interfaces. And what really brings SynchroMesh to life is our ability to partner with Tier 1 strategic global vendors such as IBM, TechData, Microsoft, and what is fundamental is that there is no vendor locking, and we easily and cost effectively deploy new services, creating one framework, one infrastructure to deploy multiple use cases. So our vision is to provide an open, secure access to building data to spark innovation and enable human-centered, sustainable environments for occupants, managers, and owners. So some of the key considerations that building owners, managers, and tenants are facing to promote a healthy, safe, and secure working environment and to encourage people back into the office is to take into consideration attributes such as well-being, to seek to improve occupant health and well-being by optimizing the lighting, the climate control, air quality monitoring, and facility design, and enabling smart building capabilities to improve the visualization of the data is imperative to attract people back into the office and promote health and well-being, particularly in a post-COVID environment. Sustainability is an ongoing discussion and a hot topic that is always top priority for senior executives. If the improvement in the Green Star ratings has significant benefits to organizations to attract quality tenants, to reduce customer churn, and also to ensure that there's more transparent reporting and metrics when it comes to helping organizations to reduce their energy costs and to achieve their carbon objectives by reducing their carbon footprint. Also, building in efficiencies and improved tenancy let me just do that part again. Together with building efficiencies and improved tenant services, particularly in the digital environment where tenants are increasingly demanding to access devices and applications from any time, any place, anywhere. This is becoming increasingly important. And also from a data perspective, particularly in a IoT environment where you have multiple sensors and devices that are vertically organized and the data is very siloed, it's very isolated and disconnected, ultimately resulting in poor performance analysis. And through SynchroMesh, our connectivity platform, we provide access and enable the funneling of this data from these multiple devices, which really influence tangible outcomes and data-driven decision-making. Occupancy, health, and safety obviously is a key consideration as well to help organizations to evaluate and improve their occupancy safety guidelines, and also providing the right technology that will help facilitate and encourage these processes to be deployed seamlessly is also becoming an imperative. So the other key consideration and drivers for implementing smart building capabilities to improve the safety and well-being, to improve the comfort levels, and to implement a smarter working environment. So one of the key drivers is to optimize the user experience. So to improve workforce productivity, improve workforce collaboration, and utilizing technology is a significant competitive advantage to not only attract people back into the office, but also it's a significant differentiator from the properties that they are competing with next door to them. So the ability to analyze and access data results in great analytics, and the visualization of this information will help them streamline their operations, improve the tenant services, and implementing technologies that will significantly improve and upgrade the existing infrastructure, such as video conferencing facilities, access to room booking services, contactless entry into the building and throughout the building, and the other key drivers which are reliant on the visualization of data and access of information is around utilizing space, occupancy, and the ability to measure and monitor how this space is being utilized is also a key consideration. Here we have a graphical representation of how Cognian fits into the ecosystem. We do not own or manage the data. All we're doing is funding the connectivity of the data. We connect southbound to multiple sensors and devices, and based on our open standards and our open interfaces, we can connect to multiple sensors from third-party organizations that are subject matter experts and specialists in their fields. So we'll provide services and use cases to promote health and well-being beyond lighting control, but also include aspects such as environmental monitoring, space utilization, occupancy measurement, together with air quality control. And in a typical environment where we first started off was with commercial buildings, but we've really expanded and diversified our offering into other verticals such as healthcare, retail, convenience stores, and quick serve restaurants. And they're all seeing that the requirement for implementing smart building technology is imperative to promote the health, safety, and security of the existing infrastructure, and also to manage their assets within their environment, which ultimately leads to proactive maintenance and predictive monitoring and fault detection. As I mentioned, what brings SynchroMesh to life is our ability to partner and collaborate with strategic global tier 1 partners such as TechData, Telstra, AT&T, and Red Hat and IBM, together with Microsoft. Here is a few quotes from senior executives within those organizations advocating and supporting that we have the right technology, we have the right approach, and this is the way forward to attract people back into the office, to attract quality tenants, reduce churn, and also have access to data and reporting capabilities, particularly around ESG compliance and sustainability, which really helps their customers and property owners and managers and occupiers to manage, measure, and monitor their carbon footprint. This technology is clearly the way of the future, and that's been endorsed by prominent property groups such as Dexus, Mirvac, and Investor. And as you can see, Cognian SynchroMesh is being deployed in multiple buildings throughout Asia, with aggressive expansion plans throughout the US and Asia Pacific, and across multiple verticals such as education, government, as well as commercial properties. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any further questions or require further clarification, we would welcome the opportunity to have an expanded conversation.
Thank you for that, Mark. It's the smart buildings is undoubtedly something of the future and something relevant across all industries. One question that I particularly had, and something that I know we've had discussions outside of today, is around how Cognian can enable a return to work safely strategy. Is that something that you've seen, a conversation that you're seeing come up more regularly with your clients or with your prospects?
Yes, absolutely, because they are identifying technology no longer as an investment, but as a competitive advantage. So first and foremost, technology is imperative to attract quality tenants, reduce customer churn, but also to implement strategies and policies and guidelines around ESG compliance, COVID compliance, and sustainability initiatives as well, which when you improve the Green Star ratings within and Green Star building certificates, this also exaggerates or improves the value of their assets, and also provides more transparency and fluency around the reporting capabilities. And to achieve that, you need access to the data. You need the visualization of real-time information, which is really essential to property owners, managers, and occupiers.
Absolutely. Well, as I say, data is the new gold. So Cognian's going about aggregating that and making it accessible for your customers. So thank you, Mark, for your time. Any questions or further follow-up discussions that any of our audience want to have, you can see Mark's contact details on the screen, which we're happy to share after today's call.
Great. Thanks, Dan, and thanks, Mark. Those were two very good presentations in terms of understanding some of the dynamics of drones and the use of SynchroMesh. So for those of you who are watching for the first time, please get involved. We're very interested to hear what interests you have and what content you'd like to see explored as part of the community. Please stay tuned for the launch of the marketplace and the portal app. And lastly, we have our next meetup coming up on the 6th of May. So thanks again for watching, and thanks to the presenters.